Hey folks, welcome to the Phillies Talk podcast presented by Team Toyota. It's Corey Seidman and Jim Salisbury here with you as always. And Jim, for the second straight day, the Phillies made a trade. Yesterday, they traded Adam Hazley to the White Sox. Today, they made a trade with the Padres, acquiring a right-handed reliever, James Norwood, 28 years old. This is a name that's not immediately recognizable to most baseball fans. Do you see this as like AAA depth, or does this guy have a chance to potentially make the team?
Well, he was out of options in San Diego, so they designated him for assignment. He's gonna, I think he's getting to Clearwater tonight, so they'll maybe look at him in a bullpen or something tomorrow. Try to get him in a game real soon. They're gonna have to make a call on him in the next. Well, they got 7 more games in Florida, so they're gonna have to make a very quick call on him. Either he's on the opening day roster and in their bullpen, or he is designated for assignment again if you want to try to get him to your minor leagues for depth, because, like I said, he is out of options. Um, he's had pretty good strikeout numbers in AAA. Only about 27 or 28 innings over 3 seasons in the big leagues. But they must have liked something they saw either on their analytics or using their scouts out in the Cactus League, or even last season. So he comes in and they throw him in the mix a little bit. They kind of got an uncertain bullpen, so it's kind of another guy to look at.
So, who are the guys who could potentially benefit from the injuries that Sam Coonrod and Jose Alvarado are dealing with? Alvarado has the neck issue, Coonrod the shoulder soreness, the shoulder strain. We've talked about like Nick Nelson, who could potentially create an opportunity for him. Who else do you see benefiting from that?
Well, this guy Norwood could benefit, could have a big league job. We're not sure about Alvarado yet. He threw in the bullpen today. I guess he looked okay. I saw him. I mean, he didn't look like he was hurting. He had his neck locked up and it went into his shoulder. So, you hear that, you're going to be careful. I think he said he was feeling good. The question is he going to get enough reps where they're going to bring him right out of the gate, or do they maybe DL him or IL him, I should say? He's up in the air as far as IL goes. Coonrod will start on the IL. I think a guy like Bailey Falter is probably on the roster anyway. I think Christopher Sanchez is probably on the roster anyway. We expect Major League Baseball to allow teams to go with 2 extra players, and I think the Phillies would go with relievers, giving them 10 because they have some starters that are going to go short in their first outings. Nick Nelson, as you mentioned, um, Damon Jones could be in the picture. It all depends on if how many spots they're going to have. If Alvarado is going to be ready, and if a guy like um, Connor Brogdon is going to be ready. He says he's healthy, but his velocity is down and has been down all spring. Had another rough outing today. Topped out at 93.3, averaged like 92.8. And this is a guy who averaged 96 last year. So that's to use Joe Girardi's word. That's something they're concerned about. I figure he could probably get 2 more outings down here, and they'll be watching that velocity really closely to figure out maybe if he needs more time and needs to start in the minor leagues somewhere. Probably start him right down here in A ball with the Clearwater Club, option him out, or maybe another way. It's a bit of a concern there. So even he's scratching his head, though. He's confident he's not hurt. They wouldn't be putting him out there if he was hurt. He just thinks it was from the lack of velocity is due to an uncertain winter. He just didn't know when to ramp up because of the lockout. He said he didn't want to be throwing bullpens for 2 months and throwing to hitters for 2 months, not knowing when they were going to start up. So, sometimes it takes power guys time to build it, and he just hasn't built it yet. So that's just going to be another interesting decision they have out there in the bullpen. I have a story now on NBCSportsPhilly.com that lists, sort of the relievers that we think are going to be there, that we know are going to be there. Corey Knable, Hand, Familia, Anthony, Dominguez. Falter looks like he's good to go. Nelson looks like he's good to go. Sanchez. Those 3 guys, Falter, Sanchez, Nelson, could all give you a little bit of length. I think that helps their causes. Another interesting name to maybe keep an eye on for the season opening bullpen. I don't know if they'll go this route, but Francisco Morales, who's long been a solid pitching prospect for them. um, big right-hander with a, I'd say a plus fastball and a really plus slider, two-pitch guy with a real wipeout slider. He has started working in relief over at the minor league complex after being a starter in his minor league career. That could be something, in the long-term future that they think he, might be, um, you know, uh, might be able to give them some good work as a reliever, but it also could be something short-term they're looking at. So he's on the 40-man roster too because they have 40-man roster issues. They're now full again. So he could be a guy that could sneak in here under the wire and be used in that bullpen.
So the three guys at the back end you'd figure would be Knable, Familia, and Brad Hand. Then you have the next tier of Phillies relievers. I'm talking about what we were thinking the bullpen would look like a couple weeks ago, right? That next tier would have included like Alvarado, Sam Coonrod, Connor Brogdon. Coonrod's down. There's the uncertainty with Alvarado. Sir Anthony Dominguez has looked pretty good so far this spring, but the Brogdon piece of it, yeah, it's got to be a concern because he's one of the few homegrown pieces that the Phillies are relying on this year. He had a good season in 2021, a 3.43 ERA, a pretty low WHIP, but he's now faced 16 batters this spring and put 9 of them on base. Interesting to hear the rationale that the velocity could be down, he says, because he didn't want to throw bullpens all winter. Have you heard any other pitchers talk about that? Has anybody else at camp talked about, maybe the velocity is a little slower to come back because they weren't working all winter the way they normally would?
No, I haven't heard that in particular because of the unusual off season. But I have heard guys say that it was unusual and they really had to be creative and when how they were going to perform their workouts. When were they going to perform their workouts? Because they didn't want to start and stop and get going again. A guy like Eflin, he threw bullpens. Because he was trying to come back from an injury, but a lot of guys didn't start right until they got to feel like it was going to start up again. Um, so they're just hoping that with more regular work, Brogdon's velocity will come. I mean, Joe Girardi admitted that he's concerned, but in the next breath, he's relieved that the guy is healthy. Both the pitcher and the manager say he's healthy. Girardi recalled how when he was with the Yankees, Dylan Betances often would be slow to build velocity, and he'd field a lot of questions about that in camp. And then as soon as the lights went on, he was 97 to 100. So and there can be some of that. I remember talking to Billy Wagner about that years ago. That he'd come down, and Ricky Bottalico probably could tell you the same thing. Um, Billy would work at his 95 in spring training. And he would need the third deck and the big city and the bright lights and the adrenaline of the fans to get to 99 and 100, what the thing people wanted to see. He just couldn't get it down here. So there's a lot of different variables that go into it, but Brogdon seems to have pinpointed the unusual off season and the uncertainty of when camp would actually begin for his you know downtick in velocity. He seems confident it's going to come. It's just a matter of, do they bring him at 93 and wait for him to get to 96, 97 plus, or do they let him maybe build it down here in Clearwater? Time will tell, and it will tell pretty soon because, like I said, we're down to seven games here in Florida.
So offensively for the Phillies on Wednesday, there wasn't much to speak of. They scored 1 run. That 1 run came on a home run by Bryce Harper. In the lineup, it was another opportunity at third base for Bryson Stott, who batted at the bottom of the order. He had a nice little opposite field poke single on his first at bat. It made him 7 for his last 8 in camp. So he's really on a roll here offensively. He did make an error in the field, but this is, a big battle, this third base situation for the Phillies between Stott, Bohm, potentially Johan Camargo, and Stott continues to, really push his way toward the opening day roster.
Yeah, Stott, as you mentioned, 7 for his last 8, hitting 500. Just kind of looks like he belongs. Ultimately, like we talked about, you get to the big city, you get to the three decks and the lights and the major league regular season intensity. Ultimately, that's going to tell you if he's ready or not. But I'll tell you, he just kind of looks like he's ready to be on this team down here in Clearwater, swinging the bat well. But like you said, made an error today, but for the most part, he looks like he kind of belongs at third base. And Alec Bohm, they wanted the guy they really wanted to seize that third base job after a difficult season last year, has not seized it. I think he's 2 for 21 or 2 for 22. He actually went over to the minor league camp today and got a whole bunch of at bats on the minor league side. Um, is that a harbinger of things to come? I don't know. It could be. He could be, sent back to work on his game, work on his confidence. There are teams that have poked around on him on the trade front. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen, but I actually sense this decision could be coming soon, where the bullpen could go right to the end. Um, I think this third base decision has the chance to come soon because AAA Lehigh Valley will open their season on Tuesday night. And obviously the team is still here, but they need to get together and travel and get up to Lehigh Valley. They're not going to show up Tuesday morning. I'm sure they're going to get up there a couple days early and work out and break in their spikes a little bit. So that could mean that maybe this third base decision is going to happen in the short term here in the next 24 hours, maybe 48 hours, maybe. Um, so either a Stott or a Bohm can be on that airplane. I don't know, but that's kind of sometimes you piece things together that way. But all indications, everything that it just looks like Stott's going to force his way onto this team. It looks like he's earned it. And as we've talked about a number of times, record $240 million payroll, long postseason drought, stars in the lineup, real high stakes, no excuses. I think they have an obligation to take the 26 best players, and Stott looks like one of the best, at least on the position side, and one of the best 15 position guys.
So the one scenario that would seem unlikely would be both Stott and Bohm being on the opening day roster, right? Because if one is going to be playing third, Girardi said this week that you don't carry a guy like Stott on the opening day roster not to play him. You
Right.
play him every
Right.
day, and you also don't carry Bohm not to play him every day. If he's not the starting third baseman in the majors, he has to be a starting third baseman at AAA so he can get the at bats and get the work in the field.
That would be my read on it as well. I don't think you want either one of them in a utility or a bench role. I'm not sure either one of them is ready for that. It takes it's a special skill to sit 3 nights in a row and then have to come off the bench and deliver a great at bat or deliver a great game in the field. And they're both developing players. They're both young players. Though it hasn't gone well for Bohm this spring, doesn't mean he's not going to be a good big leaguer someday. So you don't. I don't think you sit him on the bench. I think send him somewhere to play, so he can build confidence. And maybe if he is used in a trade, so he can build some trade value. I mean, sending him out might actually decrease his trade value, but I can't think. I mean, he hasn't had a good spring. That hasn't helped it to begin with, and he didn't have a good year last year. That hasn't helped it to begin with. I mean, but he is a young player. He was the third pick in the country. There's talent there. Had a real good run in the short season of 2020. There's talent there. He just, group effort. Instructors, coaches, managers, and himself just need to bring it out. And I just think it starts with having a good run at the plate, making a bunch of plays in the field, and starting to feel good about himself and building some confidence because he just doesn't look like he has his confidence.
Someone asked me about Bohm yesterday. A friend asked me about Bohm in reference to is this another example of the Phillies not being able to develop a guy, or is this more so on him? And with Bohm, it's just a different situation than when most players slump at the plate because he also slumped in the field. So he must have just felt a lot of times last season like he just wasn't able to produce in any avenue, and that must really weigh on a guy when you're
It
young and
does.
you're not established yet. And you're especially in a city like Philadelphia. So slumps happen every year for every player, but this one's a little different because he carried it into the field, and that had to affect the confidence overall everywhere.
Yeah, you're right, and that's something you never want to happen, but it's really difficult for a human being not to take the offensive struggles into the field because it weighs on you. Because you want to play well. When you don't, you're thinking about it, and you're grinding, your mind is grinding, and all of a sudden now you take it in the field and it just mushrooms and it becomes like a out of control brush fire. So, as far as the development, I don't think they're done with him. I don't think he's done. His development, whether it continues in Philadelphia or somewhere else, is not over. It's not over. So you know, we'll see. We'll see. I don't think he's a finished product. I don't know how good he's going to be, but I certainly don't think he's a finished product.
So we've seen a lot of Aaron Nola this spring so far. We've seen a lot of Kyle Gibson. We know that Zach Wheeler, Ranger Suarez were a little bit behind. So what's going on with these guys? Are they going to make starts here in the coming days? Is there going to be enough of an opportunity for them to build innings with the opener just a week away?
I think there'll be an opportunity for them to build enough innings where they can make that first start, those first two starts, first couple times through the rotation. Though nothing is official, but that is the way things seem to be trending, and that's the way the team seems to be talking about how they're going to handle things. So they'll have that, still haven't announced the extra roster space, but they're kind of talking about having two extra relievers, so those guys would pick up some length behind any starter who's behind and can't, maybe go deep into a game the first two times. So, yeah, the three guys that are behind a little bit are Eflin, Suarez, and Wheeler, and they're going to pitch the next 3 days. Eflin on Thursday here in Clearwater against the Yankees. Suarez on Friday. That will be his first start in the Grapefruit League game. And Wheeler on Saturday. That will also be his first start in the Grapefruit League game, followed by your opening day starter, Aaron Nola, in his final spring tune-up on Sunday here in Clearwater.
Sorry about that. I was talking and my mic was muted. But yeah, on Sunday, we have a little bit of fun for you after the game. Jim and I are going to do a live Phillies Talk podcast from By Frenchie's right after that game. So if you're in Clearwater on Sunday, stick around. And if you're not, you can catch it live on YouTube and all of the NBC Sports Philadelphia platforms. So thanks a lot for listening. And just a heads up that we are going to be off of the Phillies Talk podcast the next 2 days. We'll reconvene on Saturday, but nothing Thursday or Friday. So we'll talk to you guys all in about 48 hours. Thanks for listening.